Welcome to the Urban Herald. Our mission, as always, is to cut through all that digital noise and really bring some clarity to the stories shaping our world. And today, well, our team is diving into a story that feels both incredibly ordinary and, frankly, profoundly extraordinary at the same time. We're looking at the journey of a modern teenager, someone who loved video games, loved social media, just like any other kid, really, but who's now on track to become the Catholic Church's very first millennial saint. We're talking about Carlo Acutis. He was a young man whose life was tragically short. He died back in 2006, only 15 years old. Yet his life and his legacy, they're leaving this huge mark, really impacting global spirituality and making us rethink, what does holiness even look like in this super digital age we live in? This isn't just looking back at history. It feels like a living story, one that speaks right to the heart of faith today.
It really does. And our commitment here at the Urban Herald is, well, it's to unpack every layer of Carlo's life. It's quite remarkable, from his beginnings in Milan, which seemed pretty normal on the surface, to his really pioneering work using technology for faith. Digital evangelization, they call it. We want to explore why he's still so relevant today, especially for our interconnected world. It's not just what he did, though that's fascinating enough. We really want to delve into why. Why does his approach to faith, to technology, and this is key to authenticity, why does it resonate so strongly with Gen Z, with millennials? It's a story about influence coming from a really unexpected place.
Absolutely. So throughout this deep dive, we'll be looking closely at his unique spiritual path, the miracles, the verified miracles attributed to him, his quotes, which are surprisingly modern, really profound, and of course, the big news, his upcoming canonization. That's set for September 7th, 2025. It feels like a narrative perfectly suited for our time, something that offers not just, inspiration, but real, tangible lessons about integrating our digital lives with deeper values. Okay, so let's try and unpack this paradox, right? Carlo Acutis, he was born May 3rd, 1991. In London, surprisingly enough, though his parents, Andrea Acutis and Antonia Salzano, were Italian. And they moved back pretty quickly when Carlo was just a few months old, back to Milan. And that's really where he spent most of his life. A short life, yes, but wow, pretty remarkable. What really grabs you first about Carlo is, well, how normal he seemed on the surface. Like, he was your typical millennial kid in so many ways. We're talking about a young guy who definitely loved his screen time. He wasn't hiding his passion for video games, the classics from that era.
Oh, yeah, the staples.
Right. Mario Brothers, the intensity of Halo, catching them all in Pokémon. These weren't just passing fads for him. They were part of how he relaxed, how he connected with friends, just like millions of kids then and now.
Totally relatable stuff.
Exactly. And it wasn't only gaming. He had other interests too. He played the saxophone. He loved football, soccer. For a lot of us, played it, followed it, that universal thing sports do. And there's this really touching detail. He loved making these little videos, kind of funny ones, with his dogs and cats. That early creative spark you see when kids start playing with cameras and basic editing.
Capturing everyday life.
Yeah. So if you think about your own teenager, maybe, or even yourself back then, his hobbies, his interests, totally familiar, grounded in the culture. On the surface, he could have been anyone.
One of us, essentially.
Precisely. But that's where the story takes a turn, isn't it? Because beneath that ordinary surface, there was this incredible, almost baffling spiritual depth. It really set him apart. Apparently, he started talking super early, like 5 months old, which is remarkable in itself. And he always showed these intellectual gifts, stood out from his peers, grasped complex ideas easily. But it wasn't just being smart. It was this pull towards spiritual things, almost from the moment he could talk, it seems. His parents weren't especially devout at the time, and they were often, well, kind of puzzled by their young son's intense focus on faith.
And that's a really fascinating point, maybe one of the most powerful parts of his early story, how his own faith, which seems so innate, so deep from the start, actually changed his whole family. His mother, Antonia Salzano, she's been incredibly open about this. She described herself as, and this is her word, terribly ignorant about Catholicism before Carlo came along.
Wow, ignorant. That's quite a statement.
Yeah, she said she basically only went to Mass for the big events, First Communion, Confirmation, her wedding. She even said she felt like a prisoner of everything that is relative and limited, suggesting, maybe the life missing that deeper spiritual anchor. And Carlo's faith, well, it was like this constant gentle force in the house. It nudged them all closer to spiritual practice. Antonia talks about how Carlo, even as a little kid, would insist they stop at churches they passed.
Just randomly.
Just randomly. Or he'd ask to go to daily Mass, often convincing his parents or other family members to come with him. His questions about faith were so sincere, so persistent, that had actually pushed his parents to explore their own beliefs again. They started looking for answers for him, but in doing that, they rediscovered something for themselves. It's quite something, isn't it? A child leading his parents back to faith.
It really is incredible. A 7-year-old inspiring that kind of change. And it was right around that age, wasn't it? After his first Holy Communion.
Exactly. June 16th, 1998, he'd just turned 7. And right after receiving communion for the first time, he told his mother his mission, clear as day.
What did he say?
He said, to always be united with Jesus, this is my life plan. And apparently, the way he said it, it wasn't just a kid talking. The sources say he meant it with every fiber of his being. It was a declaration that truly guided him for the rest of his life.
A life plan at 7. That's intense.
It is, and he lived it. From that day on, he made it his absolute goal to get to daily Mass whenever he possibly could. He'd often walk himself over to San Antonio da Padova, the church right across from his elementary school in Milan. Quietly determined.
Just went on his own.
Often, yeah. But he also gently persuaded others' family members, even the people who worked for the family, to join him. He sort of built this little faith community around his daily practice.
And he had that quote about cues, right?
Ah, yes. So insightful for his age. He said something like, there are cues in front of a concert, in front of a football match, but I don't see these cues in front of the Blessed Sacrament.
It wasn't meant judgmentally, was it? More like an observation.
Exactly. A poignant observation,
Yeah.
really. Pointing out this spiritual hunger he felt was missing or ignored in the world around him. A hunger he felt and wanted to satisfy every day.
Mm.
And that devotion to the Eucharist, his strong belief in Christ's real presence that became everything to him, the absolute foundation of his spiritual life.
He didn't just go to Mass, he lived it.
He really did. He famously declared, the Eucharist is my highway to heaven. That was his path, his daily connection, his ultimate goal.
And he had such a knack for explaining these deep ideas simply. That analogy about the sun.
Oh, that one's brilliant. So relatable.
Yeah.
When we face the sun, we get a tan. But when we stand before Jesus in the Eucharist, we become saints.
It's fantastic, isn't it? It makes this profound idea of transformation, of grace, feel so tangible. Like it's not just some abstract concept. It actively changes you, elevates you, makes sainthood seem achievable somehow.
Precisely. It takes this deep theology and puts it right into everyday experience. That was one of his real gifts.
Okay, so we have this devout young man, deeply committed to his faith in a very traditional sense, daily Mass, the Eucharist. But then comes the part that makes him uniquely relevant for us right now, his relationship with technology.
Absolutely. This is where Carlo truly stands out. His ability, his almost intuitive grasp of how to merge cutting-edge tech with ancient faith practices. It's quite something. Think about it. He was born in 1991. That's the same year the World Wide Web went public. It's almost like he was destined to be this bridge between the digital world and the spiritual world.
It does feel that way. And his tech skills were apparently pretty advanced for his age, especially back then in the late 90s, early 2000s.
Oh, definitely. By age 9, he wasn't just, playing games or browsing. He was reportedly digging into computer engineering textbooks. Heavy stuff. Some from university level.
At 9. Seriously. And by 10, he was teaching himself programming languages, HTML, CSS, early JavaScript maybe. These weren't things most kids his age were doing. This was more like what specialized developers were learning back then. He clearly had this natural gift for logic, for design.
People called him a computer genius, didn't they?
Yeah.
Even the first gamer saint.
They did. Affectionately, I think. But here's the crucial difference. Unlike a lot of tech-savvy kids who might use those skills just for fun, or maybe to make some money down the line, Carlo saw something more. He saw technology as a powerful tool, a vehicle for sharing his faith, for evangelization, getting the message out to this new online world. His vision was way ahead of its time.
Okay, so this leads us to his big project, right? The website. How did that come about?
Right. This is where his digital ministry really kicked off. Around age 11, she learned about the Eucharistic miracle of Lanciano. Now, for listeners maybe less familiar, Eucharistic miracles are events where the church believes something supernatural happened involving the Eucharist, the bread and wine appearing as flesh and blood, for example. Profound stuff. And Carlo found out about this
And he was genuinely shocked, apparently, that information about these incredible faith-affirming events wasn't easy to find online, especially online, where everyone was starting to look for information. He saw a gap. A need.
So he decided to fill it himself at 11.
Pretty much. That discovery sparked his most significant project, creating a website to document Eucharistic miracles from all over the world.
Wow. How did he even start something like that?
Well, he got his parents involved to help with the heavy lifting on the research side, the history, the theology. But Carlo himself spent about 3 years developing the website, miracleeucharistici.org.
3 years. That's serious dedication.
It really was. And this wasn't just some basic webpage. It was entirely his design. Think of it like a virtual museum. He meticulously documented over 130 Eucharistic miracles. Each one had detailed historical accounts, maps showing where they happened, videos were available, scientific analysis if the church had conducted any.
Right.
It was incredibly comprehensive for its time.
A virtual museum designed and built by a young teenager.
Exactly. And he clearly had a global vision for it, too. It was eventually translated into nearly 20 languages. He wanted this information to reach everyone.
That's incredible foresight.
It truly is. And connecting this to the bigger picture, that website wasn't just some impressive school project. It was a sophisticated, powerful tool for digital evangelization. The Catholic Church didn't just pat him on the back. They officially recognized it as an important resource, something valuable for teaching the faith, for catechesis.
So it had official recognition.
Yes. And crucially, the impact didn't just stay online. Carlo's work, his research, the way he organized it all, it became the foundation for the International Exhibition of Eucharistic Miracles.
An exhibition, like a physical one.
A physical one,
Yeah.
based entirely on his website's content. And this exhibition has traveled, well, the numbers are staggering, over 10,000 locations across 5 continents. Churches, sure, but also congressional buildings, youth centers, welcome centers, all over the place.
Wow. So his digital work literally manifested in the physical world on a massive scale.
Exactly. It's this perfect example of how thoughtful, purposeful digital outreach can lead to profound, tangible, real-world impact, reaching audiences far beyond just who clicks on a link. It's still a powerful model for the church today, really. A young person's vision, creating a global movement. It just underlines how ahead of the curve Carlo was in seeing the internet's potential for connection, for sharing something sacred.
Okay, so we've seen his life, his work, but the path to sainthood, that requires something more, doesn't it? It requires miracles, verified miracles through his intercession.
That's right. The process in the Catholic Church is incredibly thorough. It demands proof of miracles, typically medically inexplicable healings attributed to the candidate praying for someone from heaven. And Carlo's story has 2 really compelling cases.
Tell us about the first one. This was the one for his beatification, right?
Correct. This involved a young boy from Brazil named Mattheus Vianna. Mattheus was born in 2009 with a very serious condition called annular pancreas. Basically, his pancreas was malformed, making digestion incredibly difficult.
Yes, he couldn't keep food down.
Exactly. By the time he was 4 years old, he was severely malnourished, weighed only about 20 pounds. The doctors had given a devastating prognosis. They didn't expect him to live past his 5th birthday. His family was desperate.
That's heartbreaking. So what happened?
The miracle occurred on October 12, 2013, which, significantly, was exactly 7 years to the day after Carlo himself had died.
Wow, the same date.
Same date. Mattheus, just 4 years old, was taken to a special mass where a relic of Carlo, a piece of his clothing, was being venerated. With that simple, powerful faith only a child can have, Mattheus kissed the relic and prayed out loud, "I wish I could stop vomiting so much."
And
the healing wasn't gradual, it was immediate. He stopped vomiting right away, started eating normally. Subsequent medical exams absolutely baffled the doctors. His pancreas was found to be completely healed. One doctor described it as, quote, "a textbook pancreas, an organ that is so perfect that it looks unreal."
medically inexplicable.
Completely. There was no natural explanation for such a rapid and total recovery. This satisfied the Church's strict criteria, and it directly led to Carlo being beatified in 2020.
Incredible. And then there's a second miracle more recently.
Yes, very recently. In May 2024, Pope Francis officially recognized the second miracle needed for Carlo's canonization. This one involved Valeria Valverde, a 21-year-old student from Costa Rica.
What happened to her?
In July 2022, Valeria was studying in Florence, Italy. She had a terrible bicycle accident and suffered severe, life-threatening brain trauma. Her condition was critical, she needed an emergency surgery, and the doctors were very pessimistic about her chances of survival.
Another desperate situation.
Very much so. Valeria's mother, hearing about Carlo Acutis and his reputation for intercession, made a pilgrimage, a desperate trip to Assisi to pray at Carlo's tomb.
What happened?
On the very same day that his mother was praying at the tomb, something astonishing happened back in the hospital. Valeria, who had been on life support, started breathing on her own again.
Just like that.
Just like that. And it didn't stop there. Only 10 days later, a follow-up CT scan showed that the significant hemorrhage in her brain had completely vanished. Gone.
Again, no medical explanation.
Again, the medical teams could offer no natural reason for such a rapid and complete recovery from such severe injury. This was the final proof needed. The second verifiable miracle, clearing the path for him to be declared a saint. It's powerful testimony.
It really is. The stories are amazing. But let's turn back to Carlo himself. His own final days. They were also quite remarkable, weren't they?
They were. Equally striking in a different way. His final chapter began very suddenly, October 1st, 2006. It started as what seems like just a sore throat, maybe the flu. But his condition went downhill incredibly fast, very aggressively. Tests revealed the devastating diagnosis. Acute promyelocytic leukemia, a very aggressive, fast-moving blood cancer.
Just like that. A shock.
A terrible shock. And the progression was frighteningly rapid. But even in those last days, facing excruciating pain and knowing what was happening, his character just shone through. He showed this incredible concern for others. Nurses reported how he'd quietly asked them not to wake his parents, who were obviously exhausted, keeping vigil by his bedside. Think about that selflessness, even then.
At 15, facing death. That's extraordinary.
It is. And true to that life plan, he declared, when he was 7, he consciously offered up his suffering. He said specifically, "I offer to the Lord the sufferings that I will have to undergo for the Pope and for the Church." Pope Benedict XVI was Pope at the time.
Offering his suffering.
Yes, a profound act of faith. And his very last words to his mother, Antonia. They weren't words of fear. They were incredibly peaceful, almost prophetic. He told her, "Mom, don't be afraid. Since Jesus became a man, death has become the passage towards life, and we don't need to flee it." He died just after that, on October 12, 2006. Only 15. But that spiritual clarity, that selflessness right to the end, it perfectly underscores that life plan, to always be united with Jesus. He lived it, right up to his last breath. It's a level of spiritual maturity that just defies his age.
That maturity, that holiness, it must have been why the Church moved so quickly on his cause for sainthood, because it has been remarkably fast, hasn't it?
Extraordinarily fast, by church standards. The formal process, the cause for canonization, actually opened in 2012. That's only 6 years after his death, which is very quick.
6 years is fast.
Very. He was declared venerable in 2018. That's the step where the Church officially says, yes, this person lived a life of heroic virtue, exceptional holiness. Then came the beatification, October 10th, 2020. That was held in the Basilica of St. Francis of Assisi, a huge moment, making him the first millennial blessed. It sent a massive signal to young Catholics everywhere. Holiness is contemporary. It's possible now.
And the final step is canonization.
Right. With that second miracle approved in May 2024, the last hurdle was cleared. Originally, the canonization was slated for April 2025, but there was a brief postponement. Now, it's joyfully rescheduled for September 7th, 2025. And interestingly, he's set to be canonized alongside Blessed Peer Giorgio Frassati.
Frassati, I know that name, another young, inspiring figure.
Exactly. An Italian layman from the early 20th century. Known for his deep faith, his love for the Eucharist, his work for social justice, but also his love for mountain climbing, his vibrant personality. He was called the Man of the 8 Beatitudes. So the fact that Carlo, this digital native, this computer genius, is being canonized alongside Frassati, the outdoorsman, the activist, it's a beautiful statement, isn't it? Shows the incredible diversity of paths to holiness, all united by that same love for Christ. It's a rapid ascent, definitely.
That pairing is incredibly symbolic. It really broadens the picture of what a modern saint can look like. And it's no surprise, then, that Carlo's tomb has become such a major pilgrimage site.
Absolutely. It's now one of the most visited spots in modern Catholicism. It's in Assisi, within the Church of Santa Maria Maggiore, specifically in the Sanctuary of the Renunciation.
Why Assisi?
That was Carlo's own wish. He had a deep devotion to St. Francis of Assisi, the saint of the poor, of simplicity, of radical faith. He wanted to be buried in the city of St. Francis. It was a deliberate personal choice.
And people are flocking there.
In huge numbers. Since the tomb was permanently open for public veneration back in June 2022, the crowds have been incredible. Just during special celebrations alone, they've counted over 41,000 people. And countless more visit throughout the year. You see pilgrims of all ages, but especially so many young people, praying there. It's a really powerful visual of his impact.
So for our listeners who might be thinking about a trip, planning a pilgrimage to Assisi to visit Carlo's tomb, our team at the Urban Herald looked into the practical details. You can visit daily, The hours are 6:30 a.m. to 12:00 p.m., then it closes for a couple of hours and reopens from 2:00 p.m. to 7:00 p.m.
Good to know.
Yeah, and if you prefer smaller crowds, maybe a quieter experience, weekday mornings are probably your best bet. The big days, of course, are his feast day, October 12th, the anniversary of his death, and his birthday, May 3rd. Expect larger crowds then, but also a very vibrant atmosphere.
And while you're in Assisi, you're right there with so much other history.
Exactly. You're incredibly close to the Basilica of St. Francis, the Basilica of St. Clare. It makes for a really rich spiritual journey all around. You know, even though his life was so short, Carlo left behind these incredibly memorable quotes. They really give you a window into his mind, his spirit, such depth and wisdom for someone so young. They still resonate, still challenge people today.
They really do. They cut right through a lot of the noise.
His most famous one, the one that just perfectly sums up his whole focus, is that line we mentioned, "The Eucharist is my highway to heaven." Simple, direct, powerful. That was his compass.
His daily GPS, you could say.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's that statement reflecting the mission he set for himself at 7. To always be close to Jesus, that's my life plan. Again, that unwavering consistency.
It's striking.
But it wasn't all purely devotional. He had these really sharp insights about life, about authenticity. That quote, "All people are born as originals, but many die as photocopies." Wow.
That one hits hard, doesn't it? Especially today.
It really does. And he followed it up with this call to action. Be yourselves, be authentic, be original, don't be a photocopy. That speaks so directly to the pressure cooker of social media, the pressure to conform, to curate that perfect image. It's a call to find your real self.
A message young people desperately need to hear.
Totally. And he always kept bringing it back to the bigger picture, the eternal perspective. Like when he said, our goal must be infinite, not the finite. The infinite is our homeland. Heaven has been waiting for us forever. It's such a contrast to the here and now materialistic focus we often see. A powerful reminder of ultimate purpose.
Reorienting your life towards what truly lasts.
Exactly. And then back to that brilliant analogy we talked about. When we face the sun, we get a tan. But when we stand before Jesus in the Eucharist, we become saints, making the profound accessible.
And that ability, that gift for communication.
Yeah.
Taking deep spiritual truths and making them understandable without watering them down. That's maybe why he's become this central figure in what people are calling the digital saints movement. It's not just what he said, but how he said it, and crucially, where he used his gifts online.
Right.
It makes you wonder, doesn't it? How did a teenager swimming in the same digital ocean as everyone else manage to articulate these profound ideas so clearly, so relatably? His language just cuts through the academic jargon and speaks straight to that search for meaning, for authenticity that so many young people feel. He tapped into something universal.
That's a great point. That clarity, that authenticity, it feels absolutely central to his influence. And you're right, he really has become the poster child, if you like, for this digital saints movement. It's a fascinating trend, showing how Gen Z and millennial faith is actively using technology to reshape traditional religious practice. This isn't just tinkering around the edges. It feels like a fundamental shift.
We saw it accelerate massively during the pandemic, didn't we?
Absolutely. When physical access to churches was limited or impossible, things like virtual pilgrimage, online prayer groups, digital Bible studies, they went from niche activities to mainstream, essential practices for millions of young Catholics worldwide.
Necessity became the mother of invention, digital speaking.
Exactly. And Carlo's early example, his intuition about the internet's potential. It seems to have inspired this whole social media saints generation. Young believers using Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, not just for likes or trends, but for genuine spiritual outreach.
Using the platforms for purpose.
Yeah, building community, sharing their faith creatively, authentically, asking, how can I use this tool to connect people to something lasting, something real?
And the numbers back this up, don't they?
Dramatically. The Vatican released data showing online religious engagement among Catholics under 25 just exploded, up 340% between 2020 and 2024. That's not gradual growth, that's a paradigm shift. And Carlo-specific content. It's generating over 50 million social media interactions every year. That's huge visibility, indicating a deep resonance.
The church leadership has clearly noticed.
Definitely. Pope Francis brings up Carlo quite often. He said something like, Carlo Acutis showed us that the internet can be a place of encounter, not just entertainment. He keeps emphasizing this idea of Authentic digital evangelization, real substance, real connection, not just noise online.
So what does this mean practically? For the church, for individuals trying to live their faith online? The Vatican actually put out guidelines recently, right? Citing Carlo.
They did. The 2024 guidelines for digital evangelization explicitly point to Carlo's approach as a model, and they highlight some key principles, things we can all think about.
Like what?
Well, first, using technology to serve others, not just seek attention for yourself. Carlo built his website to share knowledge, remember, not to get famous.
Up us over popularity.
Exactly. Second, creating content that leads people towards deeper spiritual truths, moving beyond just superficial engagement. His site documented miracles, things that make you stop and think.
Substance.
Right. Third, maintaining authenticity, being real online, true to your faith, not putting up a fake front. Carlo lived his faith openly, online and offline.
What you see is what you get.
Pretty much. And finally, prioritizing substance over chasing viral trends, making sure the message has meaning, has roots, lasts longer than the latest meme. It's basically the Carlo Acutis playbook for digital faith. Be purposeful, be real, be substantive.
That makes a lot of sense. And this Carlo Acutis effect, as you called it, it's having tangible impacts beyond just clicks and views, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It's quite extraordinary. Take vocations, for example. Seminary reports are showing something like a 25% increase in inquiries or applications from men under 25 who specifically mention Carlo Acutis as an inspiration.
Wow, 25%. That's significant.
It really is. It shows he's connecting as a relatable role model for holiness for young men considering that path. And beyond that, you see Catholic youth groups all over the world adopting his model of authentic digital witness.
How so?
They're creating their own faith-based content, hosting online prayer meetings, building digital communities where young people can connect authentically about their faith. It's grassroots digital ministry inspired by his example.
And the institutional church is catching up.
It seems so. Parishes, dioceses, they're really starting to rethink their digital strategies, offering virtual pilgrimages, creating online spiritual courses, developing interactive resources specifically designed for digital natives. They're trying to meet young people where they are, online, instead of just waiting for them to show up at the church door.
Adapting to the landscape.
Exactly. And as we look towards his canonization, Carlo's life just offers these vital lessons for us today. He really understood that technology isn't inherently good or bad. It's a tool. Its impact depends entirely on our intentions, our character.
The user defines the use.
Precisely. He showed us that the internet, which can be such a source of division and distraction, can also be this incredibly powerful instrument for sharing faith, for spreading hope, for building bridges of love.
His website is still doing that nearly 2 decades later.
It is, drawing people towards deeper questions, deeper faith. And his personal example just shouts loud and clear, holiness is possible now. In our messy, hyper-connected world, sainthood isn't just for monks in caves anymore.
Or maybe it never was, but we forgot.
Maybe. But Carlo really reminds us that sainthood is for those who engage with the world, including its technology, but do it thoughtfully, purposefully, always keeping that eternal perspective in mind, using the tools available to serve something bigger.
Transforming the tools into instruments of grace.
Beautifully put. In Carlo Acutis, we're not just getting the first millennial saint. We might be getting the saint our digital age most desperately needs. Someone who shows us how to use our amazing tools not just for ourselves, but for the infinite. How to find the sacred right here in the everyday. And how to live as those originals he talked about, in a world pushing us to be photocopies. So as we wrap up our deep dive on Carlo Acutis here at the Urban Herald, we've really traced this incredible journey. A young man who seems so ordinary in many ways, the video games, the pets, the teenage interests, yet possess this truly extraordinary, unwavering faith. We've seen him as a pioneer, really, a digital evangelist way ahead of his time, and now he stands on the verge of being named the Catholic Church's first millennial saint. His life, though cut short, is this powerful testament to how faith and technology don't have to be enemies. They can intersect meaningfully, even elevate each other.
They can create new pathways for connection, for sharing faith.
Exactly. And his story, it just proves that profound holiness, real sanctity, it doesn't only grow in remote monasteries or centuries past. It can emerge right from the middle of ordinary modern life. From our neighborhoods, our schools, our online communities, it offers real hope, real inspiration for navigating faith in this digital age. It shows that holiness isn't just possible today, it's incredibly relevant.
And Carlo found his highway to heaven, as he called it, not by running away from the world, not by rejecting its new tools, but by engaging with them fully, by embracing technology purposefully, and by fighting with everything he had to be that original. in a world constantly tempting us to become photocopies.
Hmm. His life really leaves us with a question, doesn't it? A challenge, perhaps. And it's something we invite you, our listeners, to really reflect on. How can you, in your own life, in the everyday, in the mundane, even in your digital interactions, how can you consciously infuse those spaces with purpose, with connection to something deeper, something infinite, just like Carlo did? How can you truly embrace and express your own authentic, original self in a way that has meaning?